people would die for this, the Tweed. Back end, very, very lucky. The last few years invited by the Miller family to come and join them for 3 days on this wonderful river. 25 miles from here to the ocean, 13,500 fish caught last year on the fly on this river. How lucky am I? Wonderful river. The Miller family have done a lot for the conservation of salmon. They've started the releasing of hens, not killing all the fish, which used to be the tactics. Everyone used to come up and it was like the killing fields. Now most fish are returned and the fishermen of the future will benefit from that. But just look at this river. And if you stand here for a little while, you'll see plenty of fish jumping around. That's the excitement of the Tweed. It's the biggest, it's the best by a distance in this country. We're lucky. The Miller family have 4 miles of Tweed. 1.5 miles here at Kelso, famously known as the Junction, and a further 2.5 miles just downstream at Sproulston. To take on these waters, local gillies are essential. They work and maintain the fishery all the year round and will know the pools where the running fish will rest up. Several gillies work the famous beats, and this morning Gavin Brown, someone I've known for many years, gets me started. He's also famed for designing a very successful fly called the Junction Shrimp.
Okay, if you cast back to the point,
back over there.
swing out.
Far enough?
Yeah, I always fished a lot. All my spare time was spent up the Teviot fishing with all the local boys, and I grew up with Billy, and Billy said there's a job going, put in for it, and luckily enough I was accepted. I think there's 100 and something applicants for that job. I enjoy taking people fishing and hopefully they'll catch fish. It's great if you can get a beginner a fish because it's somebody else that will carry it on in the future. Is that the same fish, I think?
I think so, yeah.
Popular flies are, this is called a Roxburgh Castle. It was designed by a local gillie just the next beat above us on lower floors. It's good in clear water, or a wee bit tingy colour. It still shows up pretty well with the yellow. And then you move on to maybe Junction Shrimp, which works when the light fades at night, when it's dirty water and it gets away from the colours of the leaves that are coming down the river at this time of year. And this is your Gary Drog. It's still a very popular fly, and you'll still catch a 30-pounder with it.
A 30-pounder would have certainly been a great way to start the day, but I was happy that Gavin put me onto a fish. And although it wasn't a monster, I was off the mark. As I wanted to release the fish immediately, we decided to land it on the far bank. Well done, Gav.
Little hen.
Little hen, put it back.
Yep.
Well, off you go, young lady. It's not just the encouragement of catch and release that's contributed to the success of salmon fishing on the Tweed. It's also down to various organisations that manage the river, one of them being the Tweed Foundation.
Well, the Tweed is very successful at the moment, and we are getting a huge number of salmon coming back, and everybody is talking about this now. I don't think there's one simple cause which attributes, you can attribute all the success to. There's a number of things that we've done over the last 10 years which are all now bearing fruit. We have got many more fish returning to the river because we've bought out many of the nets which used to kill fish at the mouth of the river, and also down in Northumberland. Those fish are all coming back as mature fish. When the fish are getting back, we've eased all the obstacles, and you can see one behind me now. This was a remnant of the Industrial Revolution. The whole Tweed was full of these. We've eased all these now so the fish can actually get through them all. And now the whole of the river is open to migratory fish. And then when the fish have actually got back there, we've spent a lot of money on improving riparian habitats and waters for juvenile fish to grow and be successful. So it's a combination of all these things now, which are the proprietors and many authorities have given grant aid to, which have really produced this effect. And it's this whole river management which is now bearing the fruit that everyone's enjoying. Well, it's a highly prolific river, but not just for salmon. It's got a terrific sea trout population. It actually has a very good brown trout population. Fishermen are divided on how abundant they are, but if you speak to the really good fishermen, they're catching good brown trout all the way through the system. And it's got a growing grayling fishery now. When I say it's growing, it's the popularity of grayling fishing is growing. So there are many different types of fish to fish for, but I suppose it's the salmon which Tweed is really famous for. And people come from all over the world to fish here. It's now probably the best river in Europe, maybe in the world, I don't know. It's terribly good for the local economy, it's terribly good for the locals. The people here fishing just near us here, these are the people of Selkirk are fishing. Everybody gets to fish on Tweed. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, how rich you are, there's fishing for everybody. And I think that's what's built up the aura of good fishing for Tweed.
Nick's definitely right, it's fantastic fishing and there's plenty of fish. But doesn't necessarily mean they're easy to catch. Halfway through the morning session, one fish caught and one missed meant a change of tactics.
You got something magical up there, Gav?
That's what I'm just looking for, a black and yellow temple dog.
Although there are plentiful fish stocks today, with average weights throughout the year between 5 and 10 pounds, at this time of the year though, the back end, there's always a chance of that extraordinary big fish being caught. In 1743, Lord Home caught a massive salmon weighing in at 69 3/4 pounds. Sadly though, it couldn't be confirmed because it was not clear in those days how many ounces there were in a pound. But the biggest fish confirmed goes to Mr. Pryor, who in 1886 caught a salmon weighing 57.5 pounds. It was also common in those days to catch large quantities of salmon. And that record is still held by the Duke of Roxburgh, who in 1880 landed a staggering 27 fish in one day. Well, I'm pretty sure the Duke's record is safe, but after Gavin's change of a fly to a black and yellow, I'm in again. The other consideration when it comes to extraordinary fishing records achieved here in the past is the equipment the anglers had to use. Although high-tech in its day, by today's standards, it's a bit archaic.
Well done, Gav.
Another hen.
Another hen?
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of the fly fishing equipment was actually designed and built specially for fishing on Tweed, and there are many manufacturers of fishing tackle that made their original tackle here on Tweed for Tweed waters. I think that's just because there was so much fishing. And many of that is, we have it in our education room, this old tackle and equipment. It's not used now, it's very heavy and difficult to use. Modern materials have taken over, fishing is now much easier, it's probably easier than it's ever been before, with very, very good tackle. But people do use and develop and make their own flies here on Tweed. Locals have their own special flies that they use. Sometimes a visitor will get told what that is, but perhaps sometimes they won't. It's kept as a little bit of a secret for a local. All these guys here will have their own special flies that they've been tying and use. Probably they don't make any difference at all, who knows, but you have to speak to the fishermen.
With the morning session over, I moved down from Junction Pool to Rosebank. There are at least 10 pools on the Junction beat, with names like Hawthorne, White Dyke and Gardenfoot. These names generally derive from bankside features like Hempsford, which was an old mill opposite the pool. Other names have more sinister origins, like Lover's Leap, named after an incident when a father threw a young man over a cliff after catching him with his daughter. She was so upset, she followed him and threw herself in. Pud is my gillie for the afternoon session, and like Gavin, he has been working here for over 15 years and knows the pools intimately, and more importantly, knows how they should be fished at different times of the year.
Worth leaving it on the dangle for
Just when it comes onto the dangle, just maybe 3 short, slow pulls, and then recast.
Well, on the Tweed here, I've known the gillies for quite a number of years now, and you get to know them, they get to know you, the conversation, the banter, the humour. But that's a little bit of the work they do, and people don't see the other side of it. For instance, when the river closes, all the work that goes on, the preservation of the banks, the fencing, the huts, the steps to the river, the actual river itself, the way it's kept in control. The boats have to be taken out of the water, and it's an industry. And the Tweed is an industry to Kelso, Coldstream. A lot of people in these towns are involved in one way or another because of what the Tweed brings to this area. I think everyone sets themselves standards, and the Tweed sets standards. We as people that fish it, it's a challenge, and it's like everything in life. If you go out to raise money for leukemia, or you do what Steve Redgrave's doing with his charities, or whatever you're doing, all these people out there working, they set goals, and this river sets goals as well, and hopefully I can match it, we'll see. Come to the surface. Oh, that's a clean fish. That's my eyes have gone. Mine always was colourblind, Bud. There we go, Bud.
Mr. Botham.
Well done, Bud, you old bugger.
It's not the biggest, but well.
Hey, it's a bloody fish. Hen?
No, it's a little cock, but we'll put him back.
Aye. There you go, little cockfish. Sporting little man. We'll put him back in, Bud.
Yep.
There you go, let him get back to the water. Go on, my son. And we'll see if we can get your big brother out now. There he goes, look at that.
Okay.
Knew we should have been down here, Pud, all the time.
Hooray. Hooray.
Well done, Pud.
Well
Well done,
done.
mate.
Keep it there then, I will come in.
There you go. Oh, we're both
Cheers.
going. There you go. Black and yellow. 2 fishies had today. All good things come to an end, and as we end the day on a high, I can only look forward to tomorrow when I get another chance to fish the magnificent River Tweed. Couldn't get here quick enough. Day 2 on the River Tweed. I'm on another of the Miller family beats at Sprowston. After yesterday's success and the short autumn days, I'm keen to get started. Craig's my gilly, and as usual for this time of the year, the river is packed with fresh salmon on the move. Although this part of the river is wide and featureless, Craig has a knowledge of underwater features and currents where the salmon will run. He positions the boat and the rest is down to me. Happily, it wasn't long before we hooked up. Everybody that fishes will tell you that the fly is the most, to me it's the biggest buzz when that fly gets hit by the salmon, and then you play the fish. In actual fact, most fishermen will tell you that the bigger fish are easier to play on a big 15-foot salmon rod than they are on a spinning rod. You've got more power, inertia power in the rod, and you can play the fish, and there's nothing like it. And all I say to anyone out there who's never tried it, give it a go. Ooh, that's the boy. Didn't want to come in, did he? I think we're winning now, Craig. Well, would you believe it? Just as I'm about to land it, did the fish get off, or did I lose it? Yeah, I'm going to start laughing. The worst part is, though, you just never quite know how big that fish was. It took me years to catch my first salmon, and although my chances are high here at this time of the year, it's still all about the presentation of the fly. Once the salmon leaves the sea, they don't feed. So the theory is that you have to tease, entice and fool the salmon into an instinctive action. You can only perfect this skill with practice, and I'm indebted to the Miller family for giving me the chance to fish these prolific waters for so many years.
Well, the Tweed is you know, it's the epitome of fly fishing. I think if you ask people who don't know much about salmon fishing in the UK, the Tweed is probably the name that comes out of their lips the first, and it's got a long tradition of fly fishing in particular. It is fly only from the middle of September onwards, largely because the run of fish is so good that if you use anything else, you effectively catch too many. Well, the way the Miller family got involved with this bit of the Tweed originally was we rented it from the Duke of Roxburgh. That's the current Duke's father, who sadly died in the early 70s. And at that point, I think, frankly, for death duty purposes, they needed to raise some money. We were renting the beat, and I think my father said, well, if you'd like to sell it to us, we'll buy it at the going rate. And that's effectively what happened. I mean, it was pure luck, and from our point of view, and bad luck from the Roxburgh family point of view, that it happened while we were renting it. But it was, I mean, it's not an opportunity you pass up if you like fishing as we do. It's a real jewel. Whee! That was a good take. Well, the salmon is an amazing beast. I mean, we don't really know where it lives when it's in the sea, but the fish that you've seen being caught here are no more than 2 years in the sea, and possibly only 1 year in the sea. For them to disappear maybe 1,000 miles into the Atlantic, reappear to the river they're born in, swim up these, you know, heavy rivers, up rapids, up, you know, waterfalls in some cases. It is an amazing thing, and to find the tributary that they were actually born in and spawn, it's an extraordinary story. And yes, and I think my father was amongst the first, maybe even the first, to show that the kind of respect that the fish deserves by starting to put them back. I mean, it was tradition to kill everything. We now try and put back all hen fish if they're not in other ways damaged, and only keep a nice silver cockfish for eating. And that seems to have caught on, and it is out of respect for the fish, really. And we owe them. They give us such a good time. Little cockfish. Now that is what you call a grilse. Hang on, lad. That's what you call a grilse. 5 pound, 4 5 pound, fresh run, no sea lice that I can see, but freshly off. Nice little fish, which is going to go back in the river. Beefy was invited. I mean, I ought to explain. My mother has a lot to do with one or two well-known sportsmen and other well-known people who come up here to fish with us. She used to say things like, well, I hear that chap Beefy Botham fishes, and he's a very good cricketer and he looks like a good sort, so why don't we get him up? And that's, I don't know how long ago that is now, 15 years ago, I guess, something of that sort. And so he's kind of become a fixture. And so I know him not through cricket, but through fishing. And we hardly ever talk about cricket. We were at breakfast saying, where are you going to be this coming winter? And he said, well, it's a tour of South Africa. I said, how many tests are there going to be? He said, I don't know. And then we started talking about fishing again.
I can tell you something, I concentrate a darn sight more when I'm fishing than I ever did when I played. In fact, I don't think I ever concentrate as much at any stage of my life. Maybe on the golf course for bits and pieces and periods, but I have to say that when you're on the river here, you are concentrating, but subconsciously almost.
Decent fish that, you know, let me go.
Holy motherfucker. Bonnie fish. What weight, Craig?
I'll be about 10, 11 pound. Good fresh fish, look, covered in sea lice.
Well, it's very difficult to tell who is going to be and who is not going to be a keen or a good fisherman. It really is, over the years, it really is difficult to spot that in advance. I mean, you clearly need to have patience, and you clearly need to be comfortable with your own company, because you do spend a lot of time on your own. You need to like nature and being in the outdoors and so on, which he clearly does. And I guess he brings a kind of competitive edge to it as well. I mean, it's no secret that the lad is quite competitive, and he likes nothing better than getting back to the house at lunchtime or in the evening saying, how many did you get? Because I got. And it doesn't appeal to everybody. And I don't think you could have predicted it would appeal to Beefy, given his antics on the cricket field, but it clearly does, and I'm glad it does.
Sadly, with my time coming to an end on the Tweed, I spent the last hour fishing on the famous bridge pool with the equally famous gillie and great friend of mine, Billy Jack. Would you believe he's been working on this river for over 26 years? You just wonder how many salmon and anglers he's seen come and go.
You meet all kinds. You get all sorts of people here. You know, you get fishers turning up in their Rolls Royces. We once had a lad turn up in a push bike to fish it. You know, fish the junction on a push bike. But you get all sorts, like Sir Ian Botham, you know, Gareth Edwards, these boys, the great sportsmen. And then you get your lords and your ladies. Then just your ordinary working man. It's so you see all sort of walks of life, which I think is good that everybody can get a bit short at the junction sometime during the year. You know, over the years you get to know everybody that's coming. You know, some of them are great friends now, so you look forward to different weeks, different people coming. I can row a boat here all day, fish away, you know, all day long, and then if I've got a spare hour or a couple hours in the evening, quite happily go out and have a bit go myself. You know, just love it. Without the fishing, I wouldn't like to say what I would do, to be honest. I would be lost, basically.
Nothing surprises me about the people that you've seen in this series and their association with fishing, because I think every single one of them, I'm sure at one stage or another, will have said to you that the one thing about fishing is solitude. It's therapeutic. The river is therapeutic, or whichever river. Water is therapeutic. And you spend hours out there fishing, you're on your own, and quite often it's one of the few times you get time on your own. People like Eric, you know, Eric Clapson, what a great man, you know, loves fishing the river. Chris Tarrant, he was here just a few days ago. You know, these guys come to fish rivers because it is an escape. It's an escape from their world, if you like. And not that they don't enjoy their world, but it's just nice to be at peace with oneself. And the river gives you that opportunity. There's banter, there's humour, but there's also times when it's just you and the river. And it can be frustrating.